So this was my first book. Um, this is handbook kickboxing training, and I wrote it in a. I created the Dutch kickboxing education program some 20 years ago. So there was no trainer course for kickboxing trainers, and at that time kickboxing was very popular in the Netherlands with champions like Peter Aerts, Ernesto Hoost, Sam Schild. I mean, we just dominated the K1, Remy Boljanski, and go on and go on. And but there was no course, and I was a teacher at a physical education. What do you call it? Physical education. I trained a trainer. Was it? I developed teachers, and so I had a and I was doing it in Amsterdam. So I had a wild idea. Just let us make a course for kickboxing trainers, and all those youngsters came to the course and so on. Then I had to find some how do you call it, renowned kickboxing trainers in the Netherlands to. I thought it was easy. I thought, well, I have a formal education platform here. Let's go together. And but as you can imagine, it was not that easy because everyone wanted to do it on their way, and we had a lot of champions. And so I ended up with a great friend of mine, Richard van Aasdonk, now in his 60s, and we developed this course. And then I made this book. Uh, Handbook for kickboxing trainer, but it's much more. I'm so proud on it. It was a difficult time in my life. I was divorced and a lot of things going on, and I just wrote this book. This was a kind of therapy for me, and I wrote it, yeah, straight out of my heart. And but it's so much more. Now I'm looking back, because it's about soul set, mindset, skill set. It's about performance psychology. It's about physical training. Yeah, it's everything. And the thing I'm the most proud of, there is a whole part in the last part of the book. I called it brain picking, where I interviewed all my heroes in the Netherlands, all my hero trainers and people. And so when you grow older and you look back, you have all those friends written down yeah, their memories and their thoughts. It's such a, yeah. It feels like my friends. I have my friends forever with me. And yeah, so this was my first book, and it's still very popular uh, in
Before we get into
courses.
the book, Eric, is
Yeah.
there, do you mind just sharing with me how you arrived there? Like, when did you get into martial arts? What
Ah,
martial art?
yeah,
Why martial arts? How did it evolve?
yeah,
Did you go straight into kickboxing? Did you start with other martial arts? I really don't know your
yeah.
complete background.
So as a youngster, I lived on this. My father died when I was 5 or 6, and already before that, it was not a very good start because my mother was um, few months ago. I heard from her brother that she had a postnatal depression. I learned now, and so she was not there. So even then, there was like the, how do you call it, in attachment. What was not that good, and then my father died, and I landed up on the streets, really on the streets. Just I'm not sure why, because she's a great mother, but I ended up in the streets with what you can call youth gangs. So it was very brutal. Even today, I sometimes it feels like separate lives because there was drugs, there was alcohol, there was violence, and it changed my brain. And so I'm now trying to repair. I'm very much in love with Gabor Mate and all those Peter Levine and so on because it changes your brain and your nervous system. So I ended up on the street and it was not going well. Then they sent me to well, let's call it, yeah, institution for youngsters without parents and the future. Not a jail, but I did not something wrong, but it was like And there, from some mysterious reason, I don't know. I I got my hands on a little book from Gichin Funakoshi, the founder of Shotokan Karate. It was called Karate My Way of Life. And I was so intrigued by that because he talked about being strong and humble and you know all those great karate insights. And then I got a permission to go to a karate dojo there in the north of the Netherlands as I think I was 12 or 13 years old. And I'm definitely sure they knew my history because we never talked about it, but they mentored me so great. They really saved my life. And now when I look back today, the self-determination theory is a very big theory, like that everybody has some basic psychological needs. They need to be competent, they need to be autonomous, and they need to be in a relationship. And they did that. And they saved my life. And then I went to another house, and I came into Kyokushin karate because I read
How old would you have been around this time, Eric?
14, 15.
Oh,
Yeah. And then because I was looking, I wanted to figure out what it meant to be a man, as every boy, I think, once. And I was looking for role models, and then I found the great Mas Oyama, who was killing bulls with his bare hands and all those crazy stories. And it was called Kyokushin, the strongest karate, and you had all the incredible discipline, and like it, man, it meant a lot to me. And so I started to do Kyokushin karate, and there was the dojo oath. And it gave so much support and so much inspiration. And I hope I will never forget that when I'm teaching my students, because now I'm more relaxed, and I sometimes have the intention to say, it's a little bit, like a
nice.
little bit romantic and so on. But it was, for me, it was not romantic. I was Kyokushin karate 24/7. But then at the same time, so I did Kyokushin karate and so on. And then in the Netherlands, kickboxing exploded because here in the Netherlands, there was the great John Blooming. John Blooming was a huge man, and he fought in the Korean War, and he came to Japan and did Kyokushin karate. But it was also a fearless judoka with high grades, trained in the Kodokan, and so on and so on. And we had all those great people here, and they went to Japan, and the Kyokushin people found out about Thai boxing, and so. And here in Europe, we call it kickboxing, and it was very popular here, and it was very effective in the sense of sparring. So I saw that, and I felt it because of course, I went into the kickboxing dojos, and I was not used to punching to the head, so I was thrown around and punched around like a punching bag. And I think it was 17 or 18 years old. Then I discovered kickboxing. Really in the beginning days, it was like there was no professional league. We just so that was kickboxing, but I still felt there was something missing. So although I was doing all those things in kickboxing, I needed some guiding philosophy, and I tried Aikido, but man, it was too early for me. And then I went to a dojo from my sensei and now great friend, but he will forever be my sensei, of course, Chris de Jong, and he was a former great judo man. And I went to and now a master of Aikido, and he was also doing some crazy karate style called Goju Ryu, Okinawa Goju Ryu. And I went to his dojo. I kicked everybody in the leg, and then I had to spar with him. And he just, because very strong man is, he just pulled me up in a kata karuma and above his head, and he very softly, pushed me on the ground. And then he mentioned to me, you don't have to prove yourself in such a way. You can just be relaxed. And I stayed with him, and not because of that. That's a nice learning. It was not about the style, or it was about the relationship with such a. And he was a very stable personality. He was just received his teaching, how do you call it, teaching qualification to teach sport and physical education, and he went to become a physiotherapist. So I was there all the time and learning, basically learning to live. And it's still to this day, because he has written, this is my last book, Martial Arts as a Compass. I'm not sure, maybe can find, yeah, now he's a little bit older, and he wrote a great forward for the book. And yeah, that was great. But I was still like, I'm not sure what I was doing. I was finding out, I think, to test myself. I heard from military colleagues also, there is a kind of age seemingly where you wanted to prove for yourself what you're worth of. And that was Kyokushin and kickboxing, and then Goju Ryu. And then the magic happened. Then in 1993, we were flabbergasted seeing Royce Gracie defeating our own Gerard Cordeau, famous Dutch Kyokushin karateka, and all those other people. And my karate teacher at the time was a high-level Okinawa Goju representative. He said, we have to know more about it. And in the Netherlands, there was a guy named Remco Pardon, fought in, I think, UFC 2, delivering those nasty elbows to Orlando Weed. It was horrible to see. And then we trained with him, and he learned on some things, and I became, till this day, totally in love with, I think I have to say, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, but you can also call it Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But I met Gichin Funakoshi and here in the Netherlands, and yeah, till this day, till I think till 5 years ago, I was doing, and of course I evolved to MMA and so on, but recently I changed my mind a little bit, and also with writing this book, that I don't have to choose between um, all those arts. How beautiful is it to have practiced them all, and to learn the differences and the things they have in common. And because I'm also now the coordinator for a long time of the Dutch Karate Federation for their teacher course, and I love doing I'm developing their teachers, but I also see very traditional karate, which has nothing to do with real life, reality-based training. But I still love it because, that there are some elements like the great Japanese concepts. Like I talked with Dr. Lewinsky about it, but like Zanshin, Mushin, Soshin, all those powerful philosophies. And then I came, of course, then the police part came. So I
And
was
sorry to
doing,
interrupt.
yeah,
Lewinsky's
yeah,
background is in karate too, right?
yeah, absolutely.
And interestingly enough, he, from what I understand, he actually taught in in our province, like where I live.
Oh yeah.
Before he moved down to the States, he was teaching karate, I think just outside of Winnipeg. Might have been in Winnipeg. But I'm almost positive about that. So
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've changed my mind, because as a youngster, I was just interested in how effective it was, and all those things. And now I see it as a great cultural toolbox. For example, my wife, she's a medical doctor, and her personality is very like um she can all do those soft things like yoga. I don't mean soft, what's soft, but this is her style, and for her to do a karate movement in a karate stance makes her feel another kind of movement quality, which she's not uh, how do you call it, which is not naturally for her. And so it's a great experience. She really feels, wow, so you can do in that stand, you can feel the power in the Gyakutsuki and Kutsudachi. So it's not about fighting, it's about movement qualities and yeah. And then I came to the police, especially as a firearms instructor.
How old would you have been then?
Oh,
When you
sorry.
came?
So I made a big make a big leap. Now, yeah, the police. I think I was 29, 30.
Well, so you've been doing martial arts for quite a long time before
Yeah,
you arrived. Okay.
yeah. It was actually because of my martial arts background, and I was known in the Netherlands that a former SWAT team member who was also a kickboxing coach. He said, "This is a great job for you," and because I had also studied at the time human movement sciences. I think it's sport sciences in English. So I had for that profession, I had a quite unique profile, like doing the martial arts for so long, and I have gone to university and getting a master degree, and then I around 30 years ago, till around my 30s, I think I went to the police, and I had a great education at the police because at that time I think I did 2 years about becoming a police instructor, and it was at police academy intern. Uh, we did everything from shooting all those weapons to protocols to law to everything, and I had a unique opportunity at the time to also to get to know the streets because I could go with them on patrol and also with all those unique special units. Nowadays, it's not that easy anymore because the instructors are more separated from the operators.
Mm.
So then I found at that time I found out reality-based training, of course, had a lot of influence from Tony Blauer and Jim Wagner about all just a reality-based concept. But later on, as a firearms instructor, I suddenly realized that I was back at Budo and Bujutsu again because I found not immediately, but when I was when I was for years a firearms instructor and I was getting a little bit older and wiser, I thought, what am I doing here? Because I was also from like shooting and double tap and all those crazy exercises, and it should be fast and this and that and so and so. And then it reminded me, what am I doing here? We are talking about shooting. We are talking about taking somebody's life, and I never thought about it in that way. And then I went back to the Eastern philosophy, like Musashi and all those other guys. What does it really mean? I mean, you can of course stand on the range and do those things, and what does it really mean to wake up, put on your how do you call it, your belt with all those weapons, you go fast. Then I wrote for a police magazine an article about it, which is still read today. It's about, I gave it a strange title. It was called Spiritual Resilience.
Mm.
So it's a strange profession to wake up, say goodbye to your family, go on the streets with all those weapons. And also read David Grossman, of course, about on killing and so the literature. And then I found then I suddenly became the last years I learned about martial arts, Eastern martial arts, because that was what they were talking about. And we're talking about what does it mean to be in that situation where you can be killed, or maybe you kill, or you get harmed, or you harm, and how do you reconcile that with all the like with all the ethics and the philosophy and so I think that's martial arts for me today also. It's the war inside ourselves. the good and the evil and how to. We are both, eh? I'm not sure if but this is not a coherent story, but yeah.
So you, um, is it just two books you've written on martial arts? Is it?
No, no, no.
Yeah, I thought it
So
was.
this is first one.
Yeah.
Then wait a moment. I have to do my ear hoor. So this first one, then there came the second one because the physical education profession asked me to write something for their teachers, physical education teachers. So I wrote, not sure, I have to do so like this. The kick of kickboxing in physical education. And yeah, which is so I made it applicable to physical education. It was a big deal because at that time kickboxing had not a good name in the Netherlands because it was a little bit from the beginning it had some criminal influences here in the Netherlands in the red light district, and there were crazy things going on with the great champions like Rob Kaman and later on today natuurlijk Badr Hari, and there was a lot of so I really had to defend kickboxing. It was like a commission. So their first question was, so we're going to write a book, but do you know about Badr Hari? I say yes, I know he's on the police list, but I had the honor also of it was a foreword by the great K1 champion and national host, and it was also very well received. Also, there's also a part in the book about kickboxing as psychomotor therapy. Because at the time I became also interested in psychology, and later on I did another master's degree in psychology. Then after that book, there came.
Sorry. Before you go on there,
Yeah.
do you think that like I mean, the reality is that the nature of martial arts also attracts individuals that have a violent propensity.
Yeah.
To me, it's almost one of these unavoidable realities that people that are violent are going to be attracted to violent things.
Yeah.
So I think it's it's certainly, I'm sure you'd agree, it's not just kickboxing. It'd be sort of any violent sport. You're probably going to find individuals that are nefarious in those sports.
Absolutely.
And it's an unfortunate part of it, but they're a very, very small minority. Would that be correct? Or
yeah, and also I think that it because when John Blooming introduced Kyokushin karate in the Netherlands, there was a lot of the same people where, like the more rough people were around him, Kyokushin karate, and later on it went into kickboxing and MMA. Strangely enough, not. I don't know. I have a hypothesis that is that MMA is. No, it sounds so stupid. I don't know if I dare to say it, but okay, I have to go to say, but I think MMA is too smart to be stupid.
Interesting.
In the sense that in kickboxing you can say just like just fighting and doing this, but MMA is a little bit complex and it takes a lot of patience to master all those skills, and maybe not everyone is interested. But I'm not sure if it's correct, but I don't see the same people in MMA and in BJJ as in in kickboxing, and there's nothing wrong with kickboxing. It's just another culture, and but yeah, I had to. But coming back to the book, that there was not everybody was. There was a lot of resistance in also in physical education and in the school system against kickboxing, and nowadays it's like it's part of the curriculum. Yeah.
Did parents express concerns?
Uh, Parents, I think more well, as always, uh, the teachers, the professionals, and especially
Oh,
those with a little bit, the Dunning-Kruger effect. Those
mm,
with not that much knowledge, but they think they know.
sure.
Yeah.
Self-declared experts.
Yeah, exactly. And this was a good test for us also because we were in the limelight. So talking about modeling good behavior, I knew that I mean every move I made on social media at the time was followed by people who would love for me to make a mistake in what form or whatever. And but it's okay. I found it a good challenge to yeah. Yeah, and we did great, and we built a great organization and for kickboxing teachers. And this day, it's even more popular. And I'm so proud to have developed is not the correct word to provided courses to all those kickboxing trainers, really good courses. Then there was a boom in the Netherlands about using boxing and kickboxing as a fitness tool, and I wrote a book about it called. Um, Box Fit, kickboxing and boxing for fitness. And it's actually, and I don't know why, but I found it, I love this book because it's a lot of exercise physiology, a lot of things about motor learning, a lot of things. Also, in my first book already, he was talking about motor learning and all those topics we discussed before, and about stretching and so on. And I had a real honor to. This is my mentor. He's a former captain of the Dutch Marine, and yeah, I learned a lot of him. He was the one he told me that what did he told me? You only you come to know your real friends in times of trouble, and at the time it did not really resonate with me, but he was right, and yeah, yeah. So a lot of memories about that time, and then I wrote. You know this book, because you have also provided
Sure.
great, yeah. And I'm also very proud of this book because just because of the last part where all my mentors in police training have written their philosophy, and yeah, in all those books I have tried to incorporate my friends and colleagues. And the how do you call it? The uitgever, the organization who makes the books. What is it?
Publisher?
Yeah, the publisher. Yeah, the publisher always tells me, don't do it because the book is becoming too large, and so on. But for me, it's like a photo album, like looking back and all those great people I've encountered during that. And then my last book, it was so strange because I thought I had written all about martial arts, because in all those books are very personal, and I'm not sure why, but I think because I I grew older and had a different perspective on martial arts. And then I wrote the two-part series, Martial Arts as a Compass. It's a book for teachers, coaches, and therapists. And yeah, it's about, yeah, this is my chapter about living on the streets, so it's also very, very personal. And yeah, I am very, very proud of this book. It's about values. It's about um, so I organized the book in the fundamentals for martial arts, the arena and the dojo, the teacher, martial arts values, habits, routines, and rituals, martial arts teams, and psychological flexibility. And but it became too big. Became too big, so they threatened me not to publish it. But I say maybe we can split it. So the other part is this part. This is uh, conversations with colleagues. Uh, so then you have former world champions talking about their career and how they implement martial arts and so on. Also, I have a chapter from the US. I'm not sure if I can find it. From should you see it? Oh, sorry, Anna Perkel. She's a crazy jiu-jitsu student and a psychologist. She trains with Crazy University. She wrote she writes a credible chapter about transforming trauma with jiu-jitsu. So this is also yeah.
What would you say like are the top three overarching themes of that book? Or what would you say is the top three messages that you think
Yeah.
someone would take away from that book?
Hmm.
Like imagine I'm just starting
Yeah.
martial arts
Yeah.
and I'm reading your book. What do you think, like looking as from a new student perspective, and then
Yeah.
maybe look at it from a veteran's perspective?
That's a tough question because it's difficult to step outside my head. But I think the main message is, and in the reviews I got on this book also, I think the main message is that martial arts is more than just fighting. It's a path to self-development. It's about it's about um, it's about that life is fighting, and a large part of that fighting is inside your own head and your own character, and you always strive to to step into the arena called life. And in the great, Theodore Roosevelt, I wrote also the book starts with the man in the arena. I think that's the message. Don't be afraid. Step in the arena. Don't just stand on the side. And I think the poem. It's such a great poem. And yeah, and just try to do good things. Develop your mind and body, and don't be afraid to fail and to fall. If you get dusted and mustard by the ground, just stand up. That's always a better path than those critics on the sidelines. Just talk about it. I think that's the main message. Yeah.
That's a great message. It's funny because we had just spoken before about this exact same
Yeah.
thing, right? That
Yeah.
um, if you want to share ideas, if you want to even talk about ideas, you will have critics,
Yeah.
and some of them won't be kind,
Yeah.
and so you got to make a choice, right? Like
Yeah.
we discussed, and that choice is um, be nothing, and everybody will love you, or you know try to do good
Yeah.
and accept that that's and so you're basically um advocating or saying that because it's tough, right? Like let's be honest, it's tough
Yeah.
for everybody
Yeah.
to go through that, but you're saying that martial arts is an avenue of resilience, not just in terms of physical resilience, but in terms of life, when you feel social anxiety, when you feel external critique, when you feel like you're failing academically, that
Yeah,
these skills in martial arts are not just about punching, kicking, choking people.
yeah,
They're about the internal voice in your head and
true.
writing the course, if you will. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct. And so I also found it a little bit. Let's put it another way. I hope that martial arts teachers keep that same message. And I don't care if it doesn't mean that it has to be Eastern martial arts, but it can also be in MMA or boxing or kickboxing. But to see it as more than just a technical or a sport. And it was what the great Jiko Dikano was already afraid of when his judo became Olympic. He didn't like it at all.
Mm.
And and at the same time, I think as a okay, I'm not a police instructor anymore, but I'm a little bit involved, and now I'm involved in the military also. I think that's the same. These are also warriors. It's the warrior tradition. And with warrior, I don't mean to make war necessarily, but to step into the arena, to struggle and fail, and to stand up and to be proud and to have the courage to be there when it counts. And that we should also, as the elder, that's the message to your youngsters also, I think. And do it with because we spoke about it, yeah, about giving, turning not to revenge uh, evil with evil necessarily. And that's also the part to be so strong internally that you can say to the critic, just relax, it's okay. Let's talk. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. And,
Interesting.
and nowadays, I told you I'm doing a lot of work with Mark Polle. He's from one of the largest podcasts in the Netherlands. It's called Sharpshooters. Sharpshooter is snipers. Yeah, sharpshooter. He's a former tactical team leader from the anti-terror unit here in the Netherlands, and we we became a little bit allergic for of being spot in the spotlights as the ultimate warriors, and we developed a concept like the imperfect warrior. But it's more about, like what I talked that even he with his great experience and great insights, he doesn't feel above or he doesn't feel perfect. He has his daily struggles, and to step up to that's real warriorship, I think. Not yeah. Instead of telling everybody how they should live. I mean, I'm only 54. How do I know who other people should live? That's not and with regard, sorry, Jeff, but with regard to what we talked also before, we asked ourselves many times, what is our main message? What is the message? And we can deliver all those stories, and he can do all those stories about being a Marine and being in Afghanistan and so on, but we didn't feel the energy, and where we feel the energy is in be a warrior for uh, an open democratic society where we can talk openly with respect. That these are some values we stand for. It's a recent discovery, but it's not. It's like this finding out what is important for you, and for me that's why I have a podcast. He has a podcast because I like the stories of other people, how they live their lives, and yeah.
You think, and this might be a tough question, but where do you truly in your heart believe you'd be if you hadn't picked up that book on karate? If you hadn't discovered martial arts?
Yeah, this is a question which is becoming more prominent every year I grow older. I don't. It's the first reaction is that I think I would be still on the streets, and a lot of youngsters from which were on the street with me, they are either an addict or are in jail or dead. So I don't. No, yeah. But that's one part. As I think I was really lost when I didn't found the book and didn't found the dojo. On the other hand, there is also me taking the opportunity. So there was some part of my soul, because I remember one time when I was, I think, let's say I was 11 or 12, and I was with not what you know, I was in the youth gang. I don't want to call them my friends. I was on the street with them, and then I was stabbed in my right leg with a knife in an altercation. So I went from the boys I was with. I was stabbed in my knife with my leg with a knife, and I was walking back home to my mother. She was alone there, and I didn't realize I was stabbed. But then somebody yelled at me, and I looked behind me, and I saw a whole blood, like blood droplets on the concrete. And I was in panic, and I went to home to my mother. I had a great lie, of course, what happened, and so on. But the thing was, when I was walking back, there was a voice inside my head saying, this is not how your life is meant to be. It was a voice. I mean, it was my own voice. I don't care, but I knew somewhere in my soul, I knew this is not okay. This is not a good place, and I have to find a better way. So coming back to your question, yes, there was the book. Yes, there was the Great Karate Dojo, which I think in all my books. Uh, uh, but there was also something inside of me who, because there were also other people who didn't make the move.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have a really good friend, Ron Bilton, who has a similar story. He had a horrific abusive childhood,
Ah.
and it was through Taekwondo. He discovered Taekwondo, and he actually ended up on our Canadian national team.
Mm.
But he wrote a book called One Piece of a Life,
Oh.
Piece of a Life, and it's hard as a friend. I can barely read it. It brings me to tears at times. But yeah, it's a very similar story. He doesn't, I don't recall him actually saying that, but I bet you just knowing him, he probably described it similar to you, that there was sort of something already inside him speaking to him, right?
Yeah.
And because I agree with you, how many other people would pick up that same book?
Yeah.
And hear nothing inside them,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
So that's an interesting concept. Now, can I ask you this? Do you think everybody has it inside them? It's whether they want to listen to it or not.
Oh, Jeff, these are really found and great questions. I would love to say yes. I would love to say
You can be
yes.
honest. Like there's no right
Yeah.
or wrong, right?
No,
And it's your opinion, right? Like it's your
yeah.
feeling
Yeah.
and your experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I also have seen people in my life, um, who couldn't find that voice, um, and I cannot say they didn't wanted to find that part, but maybe they were so broken or whatever. But yeah, I find that's a difficult question. I think I have to say that although my youth was not safe and not with the right attachment to my mother and so on, I came from a family, a Christian family, so there were uncles and aunts, and there was praying, and there was the Bible. And it's not about that tradition, but there was something already installed in me, like making me more sensitive for, not specific for that kind of, but I also remember when I was going to the institution, I, I also had some strange moments where I suddenly prayed. I was not a religious boy at all. And my mother, when we were together, because we lived together, I had no brothers and sisters. We were praying when we were eating, but she didn't pray. She was doing this, so, and then she did so, and she watched me, and I found it out as a young boy. I told her, "Why, Mama? How can? Because now I'm praying and you're not praying." And then she told me that she couldn't reconcile the death of her husband and all those terrible things she had gone through with a good God and so on. I was not. It was not. But I had a little bit experience of listening to my inner voice, so to speak, or I had a little bit. And there was maybe, and there in essence there was love. In essence, she could not provide it in the in the total way, but there was love. But going back to what you told me, when I was in the institution, there were youngsters. There was a girl. She had a history of abuse, of terrible. There were youngsters. They were so damaged. I still think they have the voice in their head, but I think it's becoming so difficult. And that's
That
why,
makes sense.
yeah, and that's why I think we are so important. And
Mm.
also, as a police instructor, I did an interview with Mark Halfmouw. He's now the coordinator and team leader of Rotterdam. Rotterdam is a big city in the Netherlands, and he is now the team leader of the police training there. And we talked about how we behaved as young instructors, young use of force instructors, and we were so focused on tactics and techniques and so on, which is of course important. But another colleague of mine, Tom Thomas, he already told me from look at the human in the uniform. That's our job. But I didn't understand it at the time. I just wanted to go to the firearm and shoot some rounds, and yeah,
But I think in fairness with everybody, there's stages to life, right? There's stages
yes,
to, and I think that we have to be gentle with ourselves in terms of how we judge our past,
yeah,
because what you're trying to do in your 20s is different than what you're trying to do in your 30s, which is
absolutely,
different than your 40s, and clearly different than your 50s. But each progression, I think, adds clarity, and it's incredible to think. Now, not to get all fluffy on you, but um, it goes back to that original thing that you're saying of if we want to call it love, and being good to people and kind and understanding, and sometimes, like you say, describe those youngsters, that it's, if I understood you right, maybe they just can no longer believe in the existence of a good,
yeah,
um and I feel anyways, the older I get, the more you find it, and the
yeah,
more you look back at your own life and have tremendous regrets of why wasn't I as kind, or why wasn't I this, or why did I waste time with doing something that means nothing now. But
Yeah.
I think that's,
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe people in their 80s that are listening to this are laughing at us again as kids and
Yeah, look
saying,
at them. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but man, that's sorry to take you so deep there, but
No, I did these. I'm always, I'm so interested in existential questions, and because I needed them also as a very young boy, because I had to make sense about what this thing is life all about, and I would love to, if I was, if I was still really involved in police training on the academy or in regular training, I would like to make a case also for this more lifespan development of instructors, and not only of instructors, but also lifespan development of officers, because as you know, we change through life, and yeah.
uh, well,
And today I'm
I don't want
talking,
to
and,
take
and, and
your whole day here.
no, 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 no.
Just yeah, like thank you so much. I like I say, I was very interested in hearing about your story
Yeah.
and your books. Is there um anything else from the books you've written that you think would be cool for me to understand? Obviously, me not being a kickboxer, I don't
Yeah.
describe myself as a martial artist.
Yeah. What do
Uh,
you practice, Jeff? Of
uh I enjoy doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
Um, but I would say I just don't describe myself as a martial artist. It isn't like a um, I enjoy training with my friends,
Yeah.
spending time on the mats.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not a highly competitive person. I'm not, I'm an old guy, right? So I just, I do it out of enjoyment and the incredible friendships and camaraderie that I've found at, at the academy I train at, and the professor there has created an unbelievably healthy culture
Mm.
of good individuals, kind individuals, with everybody just helping each other. But yeah, I trust me, I would never even joke to put myself in the realm of martial artists or you know say I have any sort of expertise or background to even discuss something with someone like yourself.
Yeah. Do you, by the way, do you know Robert W. Smith?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Robert Smith. He
I can't
wrote
say I do,
he
Eric.
wrote this is a masterpiece. Robert W. Smith. He he was one of the pioneers of martial arts. He was a former US Marine, later on became a CIA contractor, but it's not that guy. It's about um, he moved to China to study the Chinese internal martial arts, and became involved in Tai Chi Chuan. And as of course, as a youngster, I wrote him. I wrote him. I think he lived in the USA, and I got these letters
Oh wow.
back, and there was such um, there was such this we can do for youngsters also. This hands this is written from him. He's already died. He already died, but he had a message for me. Um, yeah, here he this is in 2001. He said, if I could give you an advice, because of course I asked him advice, I would tell you to train hard, but don't damage yourself. When you're injured, take the proper rest. But more important, also make friends and laugh a lot. This way, can you stand this tough training and live a good life with great friends? Bob Smith, Merry Christmas. Such, yeah,
What a great way to sum up our whole talk, hey?
yes, absolutely, Jeff. Yeah. Thank you also, eh?
Oh no, thank you, Eric. This is I've really enjoyed it. I'm glad we find because we've been trying to
Yeah,
connect, right?
yeah.
But this is yeah, this was perfect for me. What a great way. It's actually a holiday here in Canada right now.
Oh,
So I'm out at the lake with my family for an extra day. And yeah, this has just made my day. So thank you so much, Eric.
you also, Jeff.